to this place? Could we go on a trip? Everything we did was defined by whether or not it was accessible. And that kind of childhood really framed how I looked at the world. I always wanted to do something in this space, but I couldn't come up with the right idea. And it wasn't until I'd started another company and sold it and then worked in venture capital that this idea for Accessible Go emerged from a conversation with one of my co-founders, Galia. And that's how this idea came into fruition, was that I'd always wanted to do something in this space because of my mom. Unfortunately, she passed away about 6 years ago. And the site was really an inspiration, she was the inspiration for this site, for this company. So just wanted to give that bit of a backstory on myself. So this is actually the second company that I've started. And I think that everything I did up until now has brought me to this point to make Accessible Go a success. So let me tell you about our company, and I would love to answer any of your questions. Basically, as I mentioned, we are a travel platform for people with disabilities, offering bookings, reviews, and community. Well, what does that really mean? So just to explain, what are we doing here? We're taking the pain points that affect people with disabilities when they travel and solving them through a foundation of data. So in each area of the travel experience, whether it's hotels or air travel or whatever is necessary, we are gathering accessibility information and offering it to the community in a way that makes their experience better and richer. Now, we're starting with hotels because that's our focal point as a startup. We want to be very focused, but our intention is really to cover each area of the travel experience. Now, I'm sure most people on this tech huddle are familiar with the problems, but I'm going to go into it because the way that we're tackling this issue of travel for people with disabilities kind of frames what we're offering as a company. So we believe that information is at the heart of the problem of travel for people with disabilities, why it's so complicated. So we feel the first problem is that usually you get information that's inaccurate. And this is very frustrating because you could book a hotel or want to go to an attraction and book it and get information that you thought the attraction or whatever was going to be completely accessible, and it's not. And it's a miserable experience. Classic example, somebody books a hotel, they're a wheelchair user, they arrive at the hotel and they can't even get into the room. We had one review from a woman who, she was on vacation, she was traveling from Texas to Hawaii, and she arrived at this really very nice, prestigious hotel, gets to her room, she can't even use the bathroom. She can't even fit her wheelchair through the bathroom doorway. And she complained to the management, and their answer was, can you use the bathroom in the lobby? And it was just so shocking, this review. It was a real review from a real person. It was just such a poor response to a real problem. But that's a classic example, unfortunately, of getting misinformation and thinking you're getting an accessible option and it's not. The second problem, we believe, is the opposite, that you're actually trying to gather information and you can't get the information you need to successfully plan your travel. And lastly, the third problem is that until now, there was nowhere to really come together and share experiences, for good or for bad, for the betterment of everybody, about what's accessible, what's not, and what's recommended. Now, I think I don't really need to get into this too much, but you'd be surprised how many people I speak to who don't have a disability, who are not part of this field and trying to offer services and whatnot, that they don't understand that there's this major demand for improved travel for people with disabilities. But I think that there's a general awakening in the industry. There's been a lot of campaigns focusing on people with disabilities where people are the industry is waking up that there is this market of people who want to travel, who are demanding better services and fighting for it, because everybody deserves to travel freely and easily and not have any barriers. So essentially, you can see here that this market, they are, they're spending, $17 billion a year annually. When they travel, they're staying longer actually than the regular someone who doesn't have a disability. And when somebody with a disability finds an option that is comfortable for them, they keep going back. And they're a loyal market. So all these qualities make this really a very hot market. And there's been this gradual industry awakening that this is something that people should be catered to, their needs should be met. Now, again, I think I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody knows, probably on this tech huddle, why there's so many problems with travel for people with disabilities. But the breakdown that you see here for the US population in terms of disability type. I believe this is actually taken from the CDC, but you can see here the disability types and what we're offering. And it's interesting that when we surveyed our community, the breakdown of the different types of disabilities, it was mirroring what is happening in America in terms of majority of mobility disabilities and vision disabilities, hearing disabilities and whatnot. And in each area, we are offering a solution. Primarily, we're focusing at the moment on physical disabilities. And as we grow, we're adding on more and more services. But I'd like to really explain here, what are we doing? I mentioned this, using data as the backbone of our platform, and then we offer bookings and reviews, but what does that really mean, in a concrete way? So I will show you a little video about exactly what we're offering, but what we're doing is we're taking the travel experience and we're breaking it up into 3 parts. There is the planning stage where people are gathering up information. You're kind of looking for inspiration. What's cool? What's fun? Where will I have a good experience? So we have reviews from the community, because the community really is what sets us apart. The fact that we have this community of people who are trying to help one another with information. We have our forum where people can ask and answer questions. Like, you're going to Orlando and you want to rent a scooter, or you're going to Seattle and you need to rent some equipment, like maybe like an oxygen tank or something like that. And then we have content that we created. So what we did actually is we mapped out the top 30 cities in America, the top 30 cities by tourist visits. So Orlando was number 1, Vegas was number 2, and we mapped out the services for each city. So directories really of essential services. So for example, if you're a wheelchair user and your chair breaks down and you need to find equipment, we have that kind of information. So we have all kinds of resources for each of the top 30 cities in America, but we also did inspiration. Like if you are blind and you want to go to a museum and you want to actually touch the exhibits, we have content like that. Or if you're a wheelchair user and you want to go to beaches that are known to be accessible, where you can go down one of those special Moby mats to get to the water, we have that kind of content as well. So we have a lot of rich content, resources, community, and that's all just for the planning stage, which is fun because people really want to get into what is exciting and fun that I can do, and not be held back in any way. And once you've actually decided where you're going to go, then there's the reserve stage, where we have a unique, unparalleled booking experience, where there are 3 pieces that come together to add confidence and trust to book on a site like ours. So first of all, as I mentioned, we're gathering data. So far we've gathered accessibility data on about 5,000 US properties. We're actually part of the Priceline Partner Network, which means that the inventory on our platform is coming from their internal inventory. So when you look up a hotel on our site, we are displaying the data we've collected, and we have this information from Priceline on the rates and whatnot. But what's really exciting is that we have the data on the accessibility for these hotels. We have reviews from the community. And later on, we'll be offering certification from the hotels. So you have these different aspects that come together for a very rich booking experience that builds trust, where you have what the hotel claims they have, you have what the community says is actually there, and then you have hotels that want to be known and recognized for being accessible and having all these options. And then you can filter through and find what you need through these different features when you're ready to book. Then after your trip, you can pay it forward by being part of the community, by writing a review of your experience, answering questions about the place you were on the forum, and maybe writing a blog. We have all kinds of blogs. For example, we're focusing on domestic travel in the US, but we did have a blog from a tour operator in South Africa that wrote about going on safari as a wheelchair user. And it was very interesting because we had somebody write a letter to us saying that they never even imagined that they could go on a safari in South Africa using their wheelchair. And he was so excited and so inspired that he made this his 65th birthday dream and goal. That was what he was going to do to celebrate his birthday. So this kind of just gives you an overview of our solution. But I want to show you a little video, which will kind of showcase exactly what we're offering, and you can see what I just explained in action. Here is just a screenshot of our homepage. You can see the booking is front and central, And here's an actual search result for a hotel where you can see we pull out here the accessibility features, and that is really one of the many things that makes us different from the other major travel sites. You'll never find the accessibility features prominent like this and this rich in information. So I'm just going to play a little video here. Hang on one second. Let me just get to it. Okay, so I'll talk along as this is playing, but basically this is just showing you the booking experience, which is one aspect of our platform. As I mentioned, the community was really what sets us apart, but we have a very unique booking experience here. Oh, I should hit play, that would help. Here we go. So basically you're gonna see what we're offering is a full service travel site, which means that you can get information, be booking, book and be part of the community. So here you type in the city you're looking for. Vegas, for example, is one of the most popular destinations in America. And when the results come up, as I mentioned, the accessibility features per property are listed, as well as the accessibility score by the review. For example, this person who wrote a review for this hotel gave them 5 stars. There were 4 reviews for this particular property. Now, what happens when you book with us, I didn't actually mention this before, is that when you book on another travel site, like a general travel site, your special requests are usually never even read most of the time. What we're doing that's novel is that every booking on our platform is checked for accessibility requests, and that is confirmed with the property after the booking is made, and then the customer gets a confirmation email. And that really also adds confidence that our team, our call center and our customer service staff are making sure that your needs will be met. And if there's any kind of problem, we alert you right away. And this model has really worked very well for us. Here you can see this person wrote about their experience in Las Vegas at the hotel, at a casino. And that really personal experiences from other members of the community add so much value. All right, so I want to kind of explain, because if you Google accessible travel, there's a lot of really amazing sites out there that add so much to the community. But why is AccessibleGo unique? What is so special about us? So what happens is that many of these sites that I'm referring to, they have great, let's say, content, or you can book, but there's no community. There's pieces of the pie that are wonderful, but we are the first platform that's offering everything you need under one roof that's comparable to the major travel sites. So you can have a rich booking experience, get the information that you need, and still be part of this unique community. Like I said, there's so many other sites out there that are fantastic. It's just that oftentimes you can't book. So with us, not only can you book, but there's this added confidence with all the different features that I mentioned, as well as the forum and the reviews and the travel inspiration and whatnot. The other issue that makes us very unique is that, as I mentioned, data is the backbone of our platform. So we're gathering all of this information and we're standardizing it in a way that's unprecedented. Until now, it's basically one chaotic mess. You get some data from this hotel, there's misinformation here, you want to know about this attraction. It's very messy and it's chaotic. And so what we're doing is we've actually created our own back-end system. It's an extranet. Where basically the travel service providers, starting with hotels, can log in and publish their accessibility information. And this is working out really well for us. As I mentioned, so far we've covered about 5,000 US properties. At the moment, we're engaging with properties on a granular level. We want to make sure we get the information right. And also, it's just very important that we really take the information, get it live on the platform. So as soon as a hotel enters information, we perform a check, and then it goes live on AccessibleGO.com. That really helps to set us apart. And here you can see some of our advisors. Some of you may know the Open Doors nonprofit organization in Chicago. They're on our advisory board. They've been phenomenal. One of the reasons it was important to us to put together an advisory board was because we're very serious, and we're intending to grow this to a very big company that's going to help a lot of people to have very positive travel experiences. And so you can see here, we've covered different areas. We have the disability market, that advisement coming from Open Doors. We have 2 business advisors. I mentioned I used to work in venture capital. So we have 2 business advisors. Ilan, who's on this slide, was the former head of investments for Our Crowd, which is an equity crowdfunding platform here in Israel, but they do operate worldwide, as well as Joel Marilis, who was the former chief exit officer. He's a former investment banker. And these advisors have been phenomenal, just really helping us to keep growing the company and building out our strategy. And we're very grateful to them. One of the questions I want to address is that people are mentioning now, okay, with COVID, what's happening with travel? So of course there's a lull in travel. It's better than it was. I've heard, percentages that I think overall travel volume had gone down to like 10%. Now it's back up to maybe 40%. It's continuing to rise. But the general travel industry prediction is that by next summer, there will be some sort of solution available, whether it's a vaccine or therapeutics or whatnot. So basically at Accessible Go, what we're doing is we're kind of preparing for this pent up demand in travel, which is predicted for next summer. But in the meantime, it's actually very, very interesting. As I mentioned to you before, we had prepared our website so that we would have the top 30 cities in America covered, right? I mentioned Vegas and Orlando and New York and all these big cities. What we found for people with disabilities, even before COVID, was that people were booking in the smaller cities and they were going to visit friends and family. They were going for medical visits. And it was absolutely fascinating because we didn't expect that. We had built the whole site, the content and the data and everything around the top 30. So when we saw in our booking consumer marketing beta test that people were booking the smaller cities, we were fascinated. And that is exactly what's happening with COVID. People are preferring regional trips. And we're talking about not accessible travel, we're talking about travel as a whole. So everything that we had prepared for with regards to our community is exactly what's happening now in the general travel market, which is really interesting. So for example, regional trips, avoiding air travel, travel by car, staying at hotels, but maybe not going, in an airplane. So it's just really been absolutely fascinating. And also we have been focusing on domestic travel in the US always. That's just been our focal point from the get-go as a startup, to be very focused. Now, you can book a hotel overseas and we will contact the hotel and make sure your needs are met. And that has happened, many times, but our focal point again is domestic travel. So it's just very, very interesting that everything that we had prepared for as a company with our community is happening in the world at large with travel. I just want to share a little bit about our team because we've got a phenomenal team here making this company on hopefully a big growth trajectory. Myself, as I mentioned, I had a company before in New York. It was actually a newspaper that I sold to another company. My co-founder, Jeff Schlanger, he's based in Florida. He's basically a systems architect. Galia Kut, she's our third co-founder. She's just been phenomenal with strategy and just overall startup growth. And our marketing director, Daniel, who's really been responsible for the growth of our community. We have 60,000 signups to the platform to date, and that all came from a very concerted effort for some marketing tests to see how excited were people about our platform, and of Zerna, who's our our operations and research manager. So that's our team. They're amazing. They all bring different skill sets to the table, and I love them. And here I just want to share our efforts in terms of working with the community. We've created partnerships with a number of the entities you see here on this slide. There are more, these are just a select few, basically offering our travel club, which is exclusively for people with disabilities. Basically, if you're a member of an organization, then you get to join our platform and get access to rates that are not open to the public. So that's been an excellent program. We were very excited about it. Very, very important to us to work with, different community organizations to help grow our platform and to offer services that, didn't exist before. So we're just very excited. We're ready to really scale up the company, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions that you might have. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Miriam. That was great. I'm excited to kind of see this thing grow. So at the end there, we did have one question in the chat, but I'm going to be a little selfish and get mine in first. You had mentioned partnerships with organizations. So I'm assuming that anyone can use the platform, correct? You don't have to have a disability to book travel through your platform?
Right. Anybody can come and use the platform. But if you want to join the travel club, then you have to specify that you have a disability. That's, basically it's up to the person to what they feel comfortable with. But we're trying to create a community here, and by signing up and explaining, your personal situation, it helps for us to serve you better, which it's optional. It's completely optional.
Great. So. Yeah. So for those of you that are out there listening, book your travel through Accessible Go. Question from the audience was, can there be an advocacy component to Accessible Go where if people do experience issues with travel, there's a way to report that to ADA, kind of ADA violations, and then kind of some feedback once those things have been improved, or?
Sure. Yeah. What's that?
I think I asked that question the right way.
Yeah. No, so that's an excellent question. So I think the whole nature of Accessible Go is to improve travel for people with disabilities, because everything we're doing in terms of gathering the data, creating the community, power through numbers, like the fact that we had 60,000 people sign up to join the platform, showing demand, when this is just the beginning of our journey, it was very exciting. So everything we're doing, reaching out to hotels and asking them about their accessibility features, it's part of an overall industry trend about this awareness that this market, this community wants their needs met, and they should be met. It's the law. And even though it's the law, obviously this question is about the ADA. So there are plenty of establishments, of course, that are not upholding the law, even though they say they are. So it's very complicated, because on one hand, we want to get those businesses to become accessible. And unfortunately, as I've been talking to a lot of different disability advocacy leaders, sometimes the only time change happens is through the law. And it's unfortunate that it has to come to that, but it's reality. So at the moment, there's no button to report a violation, because we don't take legal action. But what we want to do is offer information. So if something is, as I mentioned, we covered so far 5,000 hotels. We're on target to cover most of the US hotels within the next 2 years. So if the information is not there, that means that the hotel is not accessible, or we're trying to figure out the best way to mark that this hotel is missing XYZ, so they know what the situation is. Because some of our users don't need an accessible room. They might just need a low floor. But some of our users must have a roll-in shower, otherwise they can't use the room. So it's this delicate dance of making sure that we're growing as fast as we can, getting the information, making sure that our needs are met, advocating on behalf of our community to make sure that the businesses are aware that there is this enormous market whose needs legally should be met, and they should want to meet their needs anyway. It's the right thing to do. So I hope that answers the question. But at the moment, there's no button per se to report a violation.
So you're taking more of an approach of working to give accurate information and then helping the hotels to be as accessible as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, if you look at the news, there's a lot of lawsuits out there where people are kind of looking for opportunities to sue establishments and who are not upholding the law, which is correct, and not upholding the law. But I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain here. We want to report the information and want to be seen as a source of a travel resource for the community to be able to travel positively. And if we end up being a legal vehicle, that's not our personal mission. There are plenty of advocacy groups out there that do fight by lawsuits. That's a different approach, which we celebrate, because there are different approaches to this issue. But for us, the tactic here is data and business awareness and growing this market and make sure their needs are met.
Do you have any plans? We just had another question come in. Do you have any plans to kind of catalog Airbnb listings and accessibility features there?
It's a great question. So the issue with the private accommodation rentals is that it's kind of connected to the previous question. There's no legal requirement on an Airbnb listing to be accessible. Now, they have the questions. I think they've come a long way. I'm sure people on this tech huddle know about the purchase of Accommoble by Airbnb a number of years ago, which was a major achievement for this community. But the problem with Airbnb, not Airbnb per se, but the problem with the approach of the private rentals is that there's no legal requirement. So if we were to say to people, okay, put up all of your private home rentals for vacation on our platform, there's no ADA law in place to prevent problems like we have with hotels. Like the hotels, the whole reason we're gathering the data is because it's achievable. This information should be available. The hotels need to legally be accessible. And that is not the same model with the private home vacation rentals. So for the moment, it's not something that we're looking to get into, although we understand that for many people, that's an option that they want. But for us now, we're sticking with hotels, cars, flights, etc. But in terms of the accommodation, it's hotels.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then final question here. I didn't miss it, Melissa. Question from Melissa: is there a fee to join the travel club?
Oh, sure. So it's free, 100% free. That's something that we worked out with our providers. It's important for us, that this is a service available to people in the community who want to join and, share information, get access to deals, et cetera, et cetera. So no, there's no fee.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, any other questions for Miriam? Miriam, thank you so much for doing this. And I know it's probably getting late your time, so everybody's saying very cool. Thanks. So I echo that. For those of you that are on, we do have another tech huddle that's starting in 3 minutes. So it is on a different webinar channel. So if you haven't registered for that, it's Night Owl. They've got some updates to their remote support platform that we wanted to feature. So we're doing back to back today. And Miriam, thank you very much for joining us and for the presentation today.
Sure, it's a pleasure. I'm so glad to be here. And if anybody has any questions, any ideas or suggestions, they should feel free to email me. My email is now on this slide, miriam@accessiblegO.com. And thank you for this opportunity. It was great to be here.
Everybody book your travel through AccessibleGO. Support the cause.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
all.
much.